The fathers eat the sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. One more time in case you didn't catch that. The fathers eat the sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. I'm not sure. I think it's from the book of Ezekiel. But since I'm severing ties with this human being, I thought for once I would tell the whole story. You never get the whole story. You're still not going to get names, but you'll get the whole story. Okay. Now, I never got to be a child because to be a child, you have to grow up in a safe environment without fear, with some sense of security, without looking over your shoulder, without looking over your back, without worry. So I never got to be a child. I can remember when my father, the killer, would leave for work, actually jumping up and down with relief, watching the truck pull out of the driveway. And he wasn't necessarily in, to me, in my generation, because there was two tiers of children. There's the older children who really got it bad, and then there were the younger children. So it's not like he beat us arbitrarily for no reason. Like I've heard stories of what happened to other people. And after my brother's suicide in 1977, kind of mellowed him out a little bit as far as that. He was just a terrifying presence because you knew the violence and rage in him was always waiting to come out. I'll never forget, he had a favorite salad dressing. It's peppercorn marzetti salad dressing that come in a jar. And we were eating salad. I don't know who else was at the dinner table, but all I remember is I didn't tighten down the lid tight enough on the jar. So when he picked up the jar, he picked it up by the lid, and he spilled the dressing on the table. He looked at me like he wanted to kill me over that. And I could see that he wanted to take my fucking head off is what he wanted to do. Which he probably would have done to one of the older children in the family. Like backhanded him or something like that. My foster brother got drunk and stupid and got in his face when he was a sizable teenager. And my dad poked him in the chest. And I don't remember what he said to him. But he actually knocked him down by poking him in the chest and left a bruise on his chest. And he would always said, "That man hurt me with his finger." One finger. So that's the environment that I grew up in. But the times that I did get to be a child were the times that I went fishing. And I would always look forward to my foster brother, before he became my foster brother, coming over in the summertime. Because then we would get up early in the morning, because the morning, you see, when the sun rose was the only time you could catch fish in our childlike minds. That was when you had to get the fish. We would go to this mud hole and fish for carp. Occasionally catch some bullhead catfish. There was nothing in there but carp, catfish, and bluegill. It was a nasty, slummy, shitty place. But for us, it was like a paradise. Because no adults, no fear, just us running loose. And we used to say silly things like we would get tired of fishing and we were just little kids. And see, in the 70s, you could let little kids loose and just let them go off by themselves. So we might have been younger than 10 years old. It was considered safe as long as there was like a few kids together. So we go me and my brother and him and sometimes a cousin, we all go fishing like early in the morning. But anyways, we one guy would jump up and say, "It's time to go gallivanting." And I think the word is gallivanting. I think I covered that once before, but then we just go march off in the woods and explore, and that was some of the happiest times of my childhood was fishing down there. Even though it was like an instant slum, and there were people uh, shooting at us, trying to throw us out of there. They would shoot at our bobbers. I've told that story before with the 22s as the other kids, and I had a gun held to my head there. It didn't matter. That was our place. That was our refuge. That was a place that we could walk to go fishing. The other places that we could walk to go fishing as little kids were private lakes that we would get thrown out of. But nobody's going to throw us out of there because nobody gave a fuck except for this one guy who planted a cornfield there, claimed that he owned the place, which he didn't, but he just planted a cornfield there. And so yeah, that's um, the carp in there weren't even very big. I mean, there's a picture of me and my foster brother together, and I'm wearing a number 44 Green Bay Packers uh, sweatshirt, and he's wearing a number 32 Buffalo Bills sweatshirt, and he's holding up a 3 pound carp like it's a 44 pound muskie in the picture. I don't know where the picture is or who has it, but we're both very young in the picture. So um, that might have been after we took him in. But now, to make this shorter, here's why he became my foster brother. This is the part that goes a little hardcore, just a little. This would be around the time of anywhere between 1979, I would figure, and 1981. I'm just guessing. It's been too many years. But his mother was a lesbian, and I don't really think she was a switch hitter. I think she was like a lesbian that pretended not to be a lesbian and ended up having a couple of children, frankly. But she was hooked up with this woman named Betty. Now, Betty was evil incarnate. She was like the kind of person where you could sit in a room with her and you could feel just the aura of evil seeping off of her. You know, it's like one of the most evil people that I've ever met. Now, sometime during that period, in the late 70s or 1980 or thereabouts, I'm thinking late 70s, um, it was big news, and it was in the wonderful city of Canton, Ohio. I don't know how old this guy was, but they believed that was trying to steal or stole a motorcycle that belonged to one of them. And these are all women now. So they beat the living shit out of him. But that's not enough. They gotta take it a step further. So they rape him. So my foster brother's mother, my aunt, uh, goes down, I think, for 7 years for her involvement in the rape. I think the actual gang leader, or the leader of the whole affair, Betty, I think she had a better lawyer and more money. So I think she actually did less time. But anyways, she did 7 years, probably time off for good behavior. But in the meantime, there's my buddy that I used to catch frogs with. I mean, we hung together when we were that young. That he had a technique for catching frogs. He's very good at it with his hands. We would wade in the water and catch turtles. And one time he grabbed a snapper turtle by the wrong end, and grabbed its head instead of its tail and didn't get bit. This is how far back we go. And they used to call him the refugee from the Tom Petty song, um, because all his ribs would show. Because his mother was an alcoholic. And of course, an alcoholic, their first priority is alcohol. If it comes between feeding your children and getting that fix, it's no contest. So um, he was starved a great deal of the time. And when his mother got uh, thrown in jail for rape, um, he had two choices. He had to go to another one of his cousins' house where the father was an alcoholic and abusive that didn't keep food in the house, or he could go and live with us. And there was always food in the house. And yeah, my dad was terrifying. And my dad was against it. He didn't want it. He didn't want no extra. He said, I got enough kids. I need no other kids. So he didn't want it. But my mom campaigned that we should take care of him because she knew that if he ended up at the other option that he had while his mom was serving time in the big house, that his life wouldn't be so pleasant. He wouldn't get to eat. He knew it too, you know. So they asked his opinion on the matter, and because my mom gave him that choice, he's like, I want to go over there and live with Steve and his family, which he did. How many years I don't remember. Exactly how injured the rape victim was, I don't remember. I remember the daughter of my foster brother's mother saying that she was on the scene when it went down. I do remember that. I'm trying to think about such things. But he was, of course, badly injured. He was already beat up and then raped, so, he was never the same. And so he lived with us, and I didn't like it at first, so I beat him up a lot. According to him, I protected him at school and beat up people for him. And they called him Little Barton, like I said before in other videos, because if you fuck with him, you fuck with me. It's a small school. I was the most feared cat in the school. As I've said before, the Duffy boys came, who were unnaturally large, like 6'3", 200 pounds in the 7th grade. And one had a pretty good career playing pro football in the NFL. So anyways, so for me, I was happy. It was like I felt like he was an intruder and he needed initiated, like into a gang or something like that. So, but I remember always being happy when he would come over because it would mean I get a friend. I didn't have a lot of friends. I've never had a lot of friends, but I had a friend. Go fishing with me, have fun with, and so he moved in there with us. And he was in his growing years. And God knows how much he weighed. But he used to be called a towhead too because his hair was always like white. It turned darker blonde later on, but when he was a kid, it was always white. I don't know why that was. There's a picture I remember of him pushing a wheelchair where you could see the full stack of his ribs, and why they called him the refugee was his nickname. And his sister remembers things a little clearer than he does. She remembers foraging in garbage for food, begging at people's houses for food, eating spaghetti, nothing but like raw cooked spaghetti or macaroni with butter and salt on it for a meal, that kind of stuff. They were lucky if they had that. Um. So, anyways, fast forward a little bit, and he moves out of the house. He gets a job at a restaurant called Crystal Light, and my dad suddenly liked him, because he was bringing income into the house. So, so my dad never liked him. He didn't want him there. He barely talked to me until I got that job, and then he liked me because I was bringing income. But I remember, you know, uh, some of the things that he would say to my mother that I would just let slide. But I remember, like, my mother had osteoporosis, and she had like the hunchback thing going on, and he didn't want to work once, and and he was like, "Look what it did to your back." I remember him saying shit like that. So he always had a little bit, from being raised in a situation like that, a survival situation. He always had a little bit of the sociopath in him, where survival was number one, empathy for other people was down on the ladder a little bit. Um, Trying to remember how it went down. Um, he moved out, and he moved in with his sister on 4th Street, and my sister lived like right down the road, like literally less than half a mile down on the same road. So when me and my dad came to the point where one of us was going to kill each other, and it was going to be me doing the dying, of course, um, I moved in to my sister's house. He was already moved in at his sister's house. I mean, he was banging chicks, like just hoping not to get interrupted and stuff. He had like an upstairs, like shitty upstairs apartment. I remember he had set up there, and so anytime he could get to have any sex, he'd be like, he didn't have no choice but to be a minute man because he'd get interrupted at any time. So I want. Anyways, um, so after I moved in with my sister, I passed out a bazillion newspapers and saved up enough money to make it enticing for my sister, 12, 27, 17 sister, to move into her house because they had absolutely nothing. I mean, they were as poor could be. They were ripping up paper towels poor, where like you're actually tearing off a tiny corner of a paper towel to pick up. You're measuring the size of what you got to pick up with the paper towel. If it's a little glob of jelly, you tear off a tiny paper towel off a 35-cent roll, which is what paper towels used to cost back then, because they're living on food stamps and shit. So I lived in the house with my father, and we didn't talk to each other. And I slept in the same room with his stinky feet, and I passed out cheap newspapers by the thousands until I saved up, 2 grand to make me an entire, they weren't just gonna let me live there, being that poor, family or no family. So, I'll be like, I'll pay you a washer and a dryer, and I end up buying him a couch on top of it, and I had that big wad of cash, and I moved in there. Oh, probably 1989, probably 3 years after my spinal reconstruction surgery, right around late 1989. So at this point, we're both living at our sister's houses. Now, things were getting tense between me and my sister because I contracted CRPS. That's when I got diagnosed with it. And I just found out I got it. she was ragging on me about eating the last donut or something like that, or something stupid, and I lost my temper. And I remember smacking the wall with my hand and knocking the clock off the wall. And I remember smacking, she like had these little beads, arts, and craft shit. And I was like, what, this is important to you? And I smacked that off there and I said, is this all you care about? And I pulled two 20s out of my pocket. Is this the only reason why I'm here? And I turned on the gas stove and I threw the 20s in. She's like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me is I just found out I got an incurable disease at the age of 20 for the rest of my life, and you're ragging on me about either drinking the last bit of the milk or leaving milk in the jug that's like that much, or something stupid she's ragging on me about. You know. So I think she'd have enough sense to give me some space. But, um, so she wanted me out of there. And of course, I went into the Cleveland pain clinic because that's sort of like a last option for people with disease, to treat disease symptoms or to treat problems. The guy that ran its name was Ed Covington, and he was a weird dude. Like he come off of the elevator like playing a piccolo or a alto sax, I forget which. He was playing some kind of like wind instrument, but he was an odd cat. But he come up with this theory that the reason why people use chronic pain is to escape life. It's a way for them to get on disability, and it becomes like, like a cycle. So the idea is to combat this chronic pain by dealing with whatever emotional problems you have. And when you were in group therapy, man, like rapes and shit came out, and like group therapy, all kind of shit come out in group therapy. Not me, not from me. I was omerta, code of silence. Narking on my dad. At that point, he still could grab your arm and rip it off your body and beat you to death with it. Not me. So, but other people, that was the point of therapy at the time, which they've changed that somehow, because I thought that was the point of therapy like 2 years ago, and they were like, the moderator's like, what's the point of the story, and the old lady's like, you're scaring the people, honey, you know. It's like, well, the point of the story is this guy's bringing up something bad and how she feels and how they feel, whoever, what gender they were, and this my story related to it. I was just following the conversation. If it's too hardcore for you, it's too hardcore for you. Don't fucking schedule meetings after breakfast. Pass out a jigger of Jack Daniels before you talk to me. Anyways, so I'm in this Cleveland Clinic pain unit, and they're trying to piss me off because they want to get your emotions out of you, because that was the theory behind Ed Covington's theory, is that like you've got emotions blocked inside of you. You don't want to deal with life, so you deal with life by having a chronic pain condition, and that way you can get on disability for it and live that way, and not take part in the society. And I remember he told me, he said, here's the future that I see for you. You'll be on disability probably into your later years, complaining that the government's not giving you enough money. Well, the government gives me plenty of money. I don't complain about free money at all. But yeah, uh, that's what he told me. I remember that, and I remember something else funny. I don't like to digress too much, but I remember something else funny. It's like they were like, he fears driving was in my chart. It's like, no, I tried to drive, tried twice. My feet don't work. You know, they just don't work. I would need hand controls to drive. You know, they just think it's all in my head. And they're like, well, we have pedals and stuff where you can practice and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, I Dukes of Hazard jumped a van off of a parking lot, like airborne, ba-boom, like, you know, because I hit the gas instead of the brake, which was actually better than rolling down the embankment and flipping because we got a little air out of this parking lot. It's I think it's called the Kansas City Mall now, but really I think Walmart took it over, and Canton Center Mall, but I think Walmart took it over, and I think the Canton Center Mall doesn't really exist anymore except for a sign. And in those days, it was called the Millette Mall. But anyways, and I tried another time, and you know, some other, actually, my aunt, the rapist, was, you know, oh, you can drive, you can drive. And then she was like, one time she went out with me, and she was like, move, move, we almost got hit by a car and shit. So I had already tried this. So I remember like they would have like a round table, right, where you're supposed to be intimidated, and they'd have like a round table of all the big brains, you know, talking like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, and they would talk to you. And I was like, look, you know, I just went to the podiatrist because I had like an ingrown toenail while I was in there, and and it's in my left toe. Or it was actually my right toe. I said it should be in your charts, right? And you're like, yeah. I said, this is why I don't drive. Man, I stomped on my ingrown toenail. Man, everybody in there freaked. They're like, what the fuck? But yeah, they made them believe that I had a little more thing going on because they didn't understand CRPS. You know, they still don't really understand it to this day. It's like that's why I can't drive. I don't have any fine motor control or feeling in my feet. I just stomped on a freshly operated uh, ingrown toenail, and I'm just staring you all in the faces and smiling, just looking at the shock and the horror. So, anyways, that's a digression. Now, so I'm living at my sister's house. Uh, Not really. I was in the Cleveland Clinic pain unit for like 38 days, and they were like, well, you know, they were trying to piss me off, and it would always crack me up because, you know, I'm living with a goddamn murderer. Like, you can't piss me off. So I just laugh at them, and they would like literally like mock me and shit. Like, so you're just like a dummy, right? You just like, oh, here, take my money, take my money. I don't need my money. You know, is that how you are? You know, they just do shit like that. I just be sitting there laughing at them. It's like, you know nothing. You don't know a goddamn thing about me. And I remember laughing at that lady trying they'd always be trying to piss me off. Have my catharsis, you know. So they didn't understand that they didn't want to see me pissed off because things happen. Anyways, so I'm in there for like 38 days. I'm having a good time. You know, it's an interesting experience. There's lots of interesting people in there. I actually did some good in there because there was like in group. I've told this before. There was a rape victim in there, and nobody knew what to say. The counselors weren't saying anything. It's like this is your fucking job right here. This woman just telling you that somebody dragged her off in the bushes at knife point and raped her. You know, so you know, I spoke up. I said, none of that is your fault. It's like you had no power in that situation. It's like you had to do what that guy wanted, or he might have killed you. You know, I broke it down for her. And she come back in my room and she thanked me for that. And I keep that here, you know, because we did. She was way down the hall, but um, she was the youngest. I don't even remember what she looked like, but she was the youngest thing. Um, I was like 21, something like that. She was maybe a little older than me, but she was youngish. And I was like, how the fuck are they? I'm just looking around the group like nobody is saying shit about this. This woman just told you, So somebody had to say something. So I found the right words to say, which I'm grateful for. And you know, I'm waiting for the counselors, the professionals, to say something. They can't figure it out. Maybe they did that shit on purpose. That's stupid if they did that shit on purpose. Like let just amateurs handle something like that. But that's just the way it played out. Anyways, when I come home from that experience, I'm in there for like 38 days, eating ice cream, watching TV, talking to all these interesting people, and there's nothing they can do for me. Not really. It's just a waste of time. Um, they taught me a few things. I mean, I learn stuff wherever I go or whatever experience I have. I learn stuff. Even making these videos, I learn stuff. You know. Um, all right. But anyways, after 38 days, they're like, do you want to stay here? Because they'll just, I had good insurance. They're like, we'll take your money if you want to stay here. And I was like, well, there's really no point. I might as well go home. So when I go home, my sister, who would go out of her head from time to time from her childhood, I mean, like, really out of her head, she had all my shit piled up in a corner. And I'm walking. No discussion. She was visiting me in the hospital in Cleveland, and no discussion, no warning, no nothing. I open the door. The first thing I see is all my possessions piled up in a corner of the living room. My room is in the upstairs. I'm like, this ain't good. So I'm like, what's this about? When I do find her, and she's like, her daughter's name, she says, needs her room. So that's the warning that she gave me. None. So I'm like, oh, where the hell am I going to sleep? I don't know where to go. So I think to my frog catching buddy, my fishing buddy, my future foster brother and betrayer. And I'm like, look, man, you're living with your sister. I'm living with my sister. That don't make no sense at our ages, man. We're in our 20s. Let's get a place together. He's like, okay. I do all the work, all the adult stuff, which I have no clue how to do. But I tracked down this apartment. It's above a wig shop. It's called the Wig Style Center. It's on Tuscarawas Road in Canton, Ohio, and still exists. I think I put a link to it up in one of my videos. Maybe I'll put a link to it up in here in case you want to see. It didn't have any really good shots of the apartment. But there's stories associated with that, of course, where he almost accidentally picked up. We had such a huge family, actually, that almost committed incest and picked up a cousin that he didn't know was his cousin and screwed her in that apartment. Except for to get to the apartment, you had to walk up these steps on the outside, and the steps broke through, and they just sawed them in half. And you had to walk up a step ladder and then go from the step ladder onto to these steps, and it's a second story thing. And I mean, it was a lot of steps. I mean, there's a lot of height involved there, and she's drunk. She's like, I ain't walking up there. So they made out some in the parking lot. And he fucked a couple of girls there, if you excuse my language. But not her. Then he found out later that that was a cousin of his. So pretty close. Bullet dodged. Um, so we lived there for a while, and you know, I used the phrase "ass whippings of Christmas past," but that's where that happened. Is like he started to like abuse my money, like let me pay for everything, and borrowed money off me for a car, which I was like, okay, I'll get some benefit out of that anyway. But then he was like, let me make me like buy all the food and stuff, so I started hoarding food and whatnot, you know. This is after like 6 months. I mean, we stayed in the apartment for maybe 11 months, maybe a year together. But this, like, we had like 3 months where it was golden, maybe, and it was a fun time, I got a high off a steamroller for the first time and inhaled the screen while it was flaming hot. That wasn't too much fun, but that was the first time I actively smoked weed. Um, Not a good experience. A flaming piece of metal hitting you in the back of the throat. Um, but, we had kind of a good time. One of his girlfriends offered to screw me, like pretty blatantly. She actually asked me if my parts work, because I had spinal surgery and stuff. Like you can't get too much more blatant than that. I mean, I played a little guitar for her, and I guess she liked it. You know, that's why us ugly dudes pick up the guitar, man. Women love that. It's a phallic instrument anyway. If you can play that well, maybe subconsciously they think you can play something else pretty well too. You're good with something else. But anyways, so that went south. I remember like that's the first time he called a spade, and I forget what I called. I called him out on what he was doing, because I started hoarding food. Like he's like, I'm not buying food for this motherfucker. And he's like, you ain't paying shit. So I bought a styrofoam cooler, and didn't really use that as a cooler. I would just like buy like ramen noodles and different stuff like cans of soup and stuff, and just like when he wasn't home and stash it. Well, he gets home and he's high as shit from work, but he gets home early, so I didn't get a chance to stash it. And he was like, "Oh, that food looks good." And I was like, "That food is mine." And he looked at me like, "What?" And I said, "It's mine. I paid for it." And I put it in my styrofoam cooler and I put it in my bedroom. And he was like, "So it's come to that, huh?" And he slammed the door all mad. No leg to stand on at all, but madder now regardless, boy, because he had the munchies like a motherfucker. And I think I had some chips and some good stuff in there too that I was stashing for myself. So later I called him out and I called him a user or something like that along those lines. And he said, "Well, you're gullible," which is basically like, yeah, I'm a user, but you're just a fool. You're easily conned, you know. And that was, he was probably 20 or 21. I was probably 21 or 22. Um, but really, that never changed. It never changed. He never changed. It just got worse. I never changed. I'm still a sucker. I'm still trying to do things for this Afghani war vet, who could give a fuck about me. Uh, Buying him, giving him my TV, and trying to take care of him and look out for him because I feel bad for him because his grandmother is a rapist. His mother was a raging alcoholic, and uh, let's just say he wasn't treated too good, and his post-traumatic stress is really not from war. I don't think. I think it's from his childhood, and he's just dulling the pain with massive amounts of weed. Like I've never seen anybody in my life smoke. And alcohol, you know, and he would need years of therapy to get that shit out of him. That's why he's like, his emotions like turn on a dime, and he takes like offense over stuff and punches holes in tables and throws shit in the yard. He's got all this rage, which is justifiable rage that he doesn't know what to do with. That's the future. That is the children's teeth being set on edge. We got to go back to the sour grapes. So, anyways, living at the Wake Style Center, things go. We're like have a Cold War going for 4 months until he moves, and then I move, and he shows up. You know, at one point he was like, "Don't you threaten me." And I got up in his face and I said, "I'm gonna do more than goddamn threaten you." You know, because he's thinking I got a rod in my back and I had all them surgeries. But like I said in that last video, belief started the belief and the memory of ass whippings of Christmas past just seeped into his eyes, and he knew that I would have ripped him apart, rod or no rod, in the back, surgeries or no surgery, because he spent his time drinking and smoking, getting high. I spent my time lifting weights, walking miles, and he knew that I had a right hand like a sledgehammer, which I still do. That's the last thing to go, is power. I demonstrated it to the nephew, because I haven't thrown a punch in like 20, 30 years. So I wrapped up my hand and hit the front door and put a little dent on it. And I didn't even get a good shot in. And he was like, "Well, I wouldn't want to get hit with that." And I said, "That wasn't nothing, man. That wasn't even a real punch. I'm standing on a ramp. I don't even have legs under me." He said, I said, "You got no idea what I could do with this right hand when I was younger." I knocked the subject of this video out, down. He knew what it was about with it. It ain't bragging. It's a natural gift I got from my father. I was trying to tell this story to this guy, and he was like, "I don't want to hear about your dad, 'cause he's all drunk and shit like that." And I tried to tell it to other people, you know, and they wouldn't let me tell it to him. You know, it's like, "Oh, that's terrible, killing a dog." And I'm like, "You don't understand." You know, and then I told it to the guy in the wheelchair who was sober, and he let me tell the story. And a Labrador Retriever, one of them big black dogs, go about 70 pounds or so, decided he wanted to kill my dad, and came at his throat, and my dad punched it in the chest and killed it with a punch. Witnessed, verified. You know, I got that hereditarily somehow. I got that fist of doom hereditarily. I mean, he killed two dogs with his bare hands that he had no business killing with his bare hands. One of them he had to choke out. It bit the fuck out of him because it was a child dog, and it was his favorite dog actually. But him being cruel and mistreating it finally got on its nerves enough that it snapped and attacked its master. He said the dog was so fast that it was cutting him left and right, and he couldn't get a hold of it. But once he got a hold of it, he strangled it and choked it out. But anyways, he wasn't even. I mean, how short of a story is that? A Labrador Retriever jumps at his throat, he punches it in the chest and kills it, which most people would not even attempt to do. You know, and when he was like 10 years old, like I told you before, he got fast with a knife and really good with a knife at a very young age because he was under 6 foot. All his brothers were bigger than him and were beating the shit out of him all the time. But once he learned how to use that knife, and once they knew his nature, all that ended. So, now we go to the meat of the story, which I already told, which made me cry a little bit because he come to live with us because we had the food, and he was still, I don't know how old he was, but he was, he wasn't full grown yet. You know, he might be little like this dude out here, or like the dude's brother that are his nephews, because alcohol comes first to alcoholic, not feeding your children. So, so he grew up nice and big. He's about my size, and my mom loved him. Always nice to him. Always treated him as her own child. Always made sure he was fed and clothed. Bought him things, and he moved out. So, um, his mom gets out of jail. Now, the situation with his mom or where she lived at the time after she got out of jail, I don't know, but this is probably around the time that I was dealing with spinal tumors and surgeries and shit like that. I do remember her giving me her jail books because she had a bunch of philosophy books and stuff from jail, you know. And being that type of person, she would probably ask me. She probably asked me about them like 2 years ago. Like 30 years later, she's asking me about these goddamn books she gave me, and I still have most of them. Um, but anyways, um, man, it's this is a hard story to tell. But the thing of it is like my mom made sure that he got the proper nutrition and could grow into a full-sized human being, literally. Because if you don't get the proper nutrition growing up, man, you don't grow up. You know, I mean, his stack of ribs showed all the way from here all the way down. In this one picture where he's like picking up a wheelbarrow, he's in this picture and he's a kid. And not only was he starved, but he was beaten. He had to live with uh, the evil Betty woman's kids, both of whom he hated, both of whom were sex perverts. Um, uh, his babysitters. He had one babysitter called the Dragon Lady. Okay, she saw dragons everywhere. Now, whether she was chasing the dragon like heroin or what her deal was, or whether she was just insane, but he just called her the Dragon Lady because that's all she talked about. Like, there's dragons in the cupboard. Like, you know, this is a little kid. This is the babysitters that he would get. And then I think he told me either about a molestation or a near molestation from another babysitter that was a male, I think. I don't remember. I just remember I was like I just had come out of like some kind of psychiatric unit or something like that, so I was like all like weird in the head, and I don't remember his story, I just remember my reaction to it. And I just, he was clearly unburdening himself, you know. And I think I remember writing, I was like kind of crazy, so I like wrote a note like, you just had your first therapy session, son, or something like that, and I put it on his pillow. Um, so he could see it when he come back from school. I don't think I was going to school at the time. Anyways, so the point of the whole thing is my mom treated him really good. So my mom gets sick. I already told this part in the last video. But my mom gets sick. He sees her one time, can't handle it, can't deal with it, runs, you know. Eh, okay, that I could live with. Um, Somebody with dementia, I don't know at what point. I don't even know at what point he was even going over there or how frequently he was even visiting over there. Anyways, um, but as I said in the other video, my brother was like, we didn't want to put her in a nursing home. We want her to die in her own home. She barely knew where she was anyway. How terrified would she be if she didn't see somebody that she might recognize or hear a voice maybe that she would recognize? So my brother took care of her for like years. And before that, before she declined like that, he got a boat off of my dad that we used to actually play cowboys and Indians and like hide under it. It was so old and was like scouring it up and buffing it up. And like, I'm like, why is he doing this? It's like, oh. I was like, I'm really not getting in that boat, like, ever, you know? Now, I was under the impression that he scrapped it out, but yesterday, he told me that he sold it for $200 and that, he's still bragging about fishing and stuff. No clue, no empathy, complete sociopath. Um, won't take any responsibility for costing me $900. He says he doesn't believe my cop buddy, who's owned, I don't know, dozens of boats, is 20 years older, 24 years older than him, has been out on the water thousands of times in thousands of different boats, has owned the exact same motor, two different ones, and checked it out and said that it was trash. That it said it would need service. You'd have to put at least $200 into it because they're not cheap when you take them to the doctor. So he's still evading that, because he's not acknowledging that he ruined my boat without my permission. Just put it out in the weather. If you're going to put it out in the weather and take it out of your garage, I could have put it here and taken care of it. But he didn't tell me about it. He just, as an afterthought, like, oh yeah, we took your boat out and we put it in the neighbor's yard. I had permission. And then, like, I found out that, well, he's like, well, we got to move that boat. And I'm like, he needed, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking like, it's a rental type deal or whatever like that, like, the new people that come in who won't be cool with the boat having there. But no, the guy is selling the house to somebody else. He's abandoning the house altogether. So that means whatever's on his property is his. So I'm in danger of losing the whole boat because this stupid motherfucker give me no warning at all. Literally 24 hours warning that this is going to happen. So a cop friend to the rescue. We move the boat and the boat's out there. But anyways, so I think you know most of that story. Uh, but the reason why I bought the boat is like we went fishing one day and we couldn't find any place to fish from shore. And I'm like, you're already messing with that stupid boat, and I'm not getting in that boat. That boat's older than both of us. It's like, I'm not getting in that boat, you know. So, uh, which he sold to some sucker he worked with named Jesse. He told me yesterday, which I'm pretty sure I have a good memory, and he never told me that before. I was always under the impression that he scrapped it for aluminum, because he got this new boat, which he encouraged me to buy. He's like, I know this guy that's too old to fish. He's got this nice bass boat. Costs $1,500. He's pretty firm about it. And I'm like, sounds good. Expecting to do some fishing and have some fun. Never been in the boat. And like I said in the other video, I made him promise, get my brother out of the house. He never gets to leave the house. All he does is talk to me on the phone and cry. You know, just I'm skipping a part, which is when I bought the boat, I said I'll buy the boat. I'll point down $1,500, but to get it on the water, the little incidentals like the license plate and the little things you need, that's on you. He's like, okay. So the boat don't get on the water for 3 years because he's a lying piece of shit and has no sense of honor or integrity. But then my mother takes ill. I want that boat on the water so I can get my brother out of the house so he doesn't completely, so he can have something to look forward to, you know, besides, you know how I'm not going to go into, I don't think I need to go into the horrors of taking care of somebody with dementia, what that's like 24/7, you know. I mean, I don't think I need to go, I don't think I need to get too graphic about that. But anyways, mm, so I made him make that promise. I said, I don't have a lot of money right now. If I spend this money, you're going to get my brother out of the house and you're going to take him fishing, right? You know, you're going to give him something to look forward to, like maybe once every week or once every couple of weeks. You know, he promised, but he was just like, yeah, yes, man. And he took him out once. That's what my $295 that I put into the boat went to. So I put roughly $1,800 into the boat. And Daddy left outside. Daddy didn't pull the drain plug on. They let me at a mosquito larvae factory. They didn't take care of the motor oven, ruined the motor. The motor's worth $200 or $300. And I'm talking to him or texting him yesterday, and I'm only talking to him and being nice to him to get the title off of him because I don't understand title transfer. But apparently he can just sign the title transfer in Ohio. You can just sign the title over, and if you have his signature, you don't have to go to the notary with him. You got the title and you got the man's signature. That's all you need. But we have this stupid conversation, which he said, well, when Jim sold it to me, he wasn't with me at the notary because I want to give it to the war vet. But the last time him and the war vet got together, there was a full blown fight. I mean, to the death type of fight, like broken ribs, like people thrown in the barbecue grills, like to the death type of shit, like where they called the cops in. And the cops came there and they were like, they knew who was the troublemaker. So they were like, it's too bad about your cousin falling. Or it's too bad about your nephew falling down the steps. And he goes, no, officer, I hit him. And the officer looked at him again and said, it's just really too bad that he fell down the steps. And then, you know, he caught on. He's like, oh yeah, he fell down the steps. You know, so no assault charge because he was gonna he works with an automotive place, so he's got pretty real powerful hands, and he's got a pretty good punch because he had to defend himself against me. So he had him down. And he's a little 130-pound dude, and uh, my cousin's pushing foster brother. He's pushing 200. So he said he was going to blast him right in his face, and he redirected the punch and hit him in the eyebrow and cut him to where he was bleeding all down his face. And so because of that, the cops had to put something down. So they put down that he fell down the steps, and the guy up there, he was like using the N word on a cop, which I don't want to say. Why, I don't know, but I don't want to say it. Uh, and the cop was like, I don't care where he goes or what you do with him, but you get him out of here, and you get him out of here now. You know, so they I guess they hustled him into a car somehow. So not the guy he was in a fight with, but somebody else hustled him in a car and maybe took him to a motel and let him sleep it off or whatever. So, yeah. So that was a huge, huge betrayal, okay? And for him to go back on his word like that and not that woman saved him, my mother, from poverty, hunger, abuse. Because my dad was like not nice, but he knew how powerful he was. He wasn't gonna hit you, and he wasn't gonna slap you. You know, he was past that stage. He knew. He didn't want to go to jail. He didn't want to hurt. I think actually my brother's suicide just he didn't want to hurt no more of his children. I think not. He didn't want to hurt them physically. He couldn't help but hurt us emotionally, but he didn't want to hurt us physically. So like I said, he poked him in the chest with a finger and knocked him down like it was a punch. And that's what he always says, man. He said the man hurt me with his finger. He said I had a bruise on my chest from his finger. Um, but anyways, so that's you got that huge betrayal there, And I fronted him out about that, and he was like, I don't have any defense for that. He said that what you're saying is true. And I was like, okay, you know. And some time goes by, and I'm like, let's try to be friends again. Like I said in the other video, and then the last video, and then the boat thing happens, right? Where he doesn't take care of my property, treats it like shit, and ruins it, and costs me $900, which is a lot of money to me. He actually brings the buyer to the boat, pulls back the tarp, and there's a foot of brackish water in the boat. Now, not the most intelligent person in the world, but I'm pretty sure those aren't the circumstances you want to sell a boat, you know. But he didn't even like clean it up for me or even check it, don't because he don't care about. He cares about himself. Jimmy cares about Jimmy. Like the other choice that he had to go to live with said, because he had two choices. He had our family or he had these other people that ended up moving down south. But that's what he said about him. He knows him as well as anybody. He spent more time with him as a child than I did. He said, Jimmy cares about Jimmy. It's a complete clinical narcissist. Like, he didn't care that I'm in danger and that I'm stuck with this guy. He's actually happy about it, probably, because now he's my problem. But he just that's the thing that turned me to the point where dead, whole house dead. He's cold as ice about that, man. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's like he doesn't care what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. And then the woman that actually hopefully accidentally got me hooked on benzodiazepines. Um, she gave me my first ones anyway, and I just was in a messed up state of mind. My mom was dying and sick. There's a whole thing behind that I'm not going into, but I was just saying it's another down. It's another down. I had never had any trouble with opiates, but benzos are another deal. So uh, she would charge me for them sometimes. Sometimes I would walk in the house and she would have like they would come in strips and she'd have a strip of 10 and be like handing them to me, because she knew I'd give them money for them. Cause I would just give her money because I just thought it was appropriate because I thought it was like honorable. So it was almost like a semi-drug dealer type of thing, like, first they get you hooked type of thing. But she told me over and over again, she said, I don't want you getting hooked on this stuff. But once I got hooked on the stuff, money started changing hands a lot more regularly. Okay? But she's the one that was involved in the rape and is the matriarch. And that this guy is loyal as fuck to somebody that abused him, starved him, and abandoned him for 7 years. And is not loyal to the family that adopted him and took him in and saved him and fed him and let him grow up with a normal body and not malnourished and shrimpy. He's a full 6 foot. Um, but he's like completely devoted to her. And I'm like, guy must be fucking insane, you know? Because my dad at least kept me fed, you know? Didn't leave me with crazy people that saw dragons everywhere. Didn't leave me around perverts and whatnot. So I can't figure that one out, you know. But I thought it would actually tell a story on here where you get all the gory details, where you get um, the whole deal. I'm just not using names, but you get all the events involved. You know, it's not too often that you hear about something like that where somebody just. I mean, he barely missed a day all the time that she was sick. From October, she was sick for like 6 to 8 months, where everyone thought she was gonna die, me included. But never, never missed a day, you know. And I was supportive to him in a way that he wasn't supportive to a woman that actually took care of him, and the way he wasn't supportive to his foster brothers, me and my brother. All I wanted to do was get my brother out of the house just once in a while, just give him something to look forward to, you know. Besides having to clean up after his uh, mother, who half the time didn't even know who she was. And I know this is all hard to listen to. I can understand that, you know, harder to live. So I don't want the boat. It's just bad memories to me. It's out there, you know. It's kind of like my cop assessed it as a 400 or best offer type of deal, when I should have $900 in my pocket for it if it was properly taken care of. Because the buyer was super excited about it, you know. And I was going to give, because I'm honorable, I was going to give $100 commission um, to my foster brother who wrecked the boat. So that's like, you screwed yourself about $100 out of $100 on this. You know that, right? 'Cause I was going to give you $100 commission, 10%. And he's like, "Oh, I don't care about that." Definitely, you don't care about that. It's nice of you not to care about the $100 that you lost, and not the $900 that you screwed me out of, or the fact that you ruined my boat if I ever found somebody that would go out on it with me. Um, it's nice that you care about yourself that much. It's beautiful. Um, so, anyways, I better wrap this up. This is over an hour now. But um, so I'm trying. You know, this guy's he's no different than any of them. He's a user. You know, he's like a black hole. Uh, uh, he's different in one way. It's like he's more honest. But I mean, it's a one-way street with that dude. You give him something, it ain't coming back. You know, there ain't no loans. You know, you don't loan him a coffee mug. It took me like 3 weeks to get my favorite mug, this my big mug, back because I let him use it once. I found it out on the porch, and I asked Roy in the wheelchair, "Give me that mug over there," while he was in the house. You know, I smuggled it back in the house. I think he said something about it being his or something like that. You know, he's whacked out of his skull. But yeah, I gave him a TV, and I hooked him up with some entertainment and stuff. But he lost his job. He's jobless now, and that's a problem. You see, because that's a bad hook, alcohol, and he's a known thief. He's stolen off of me. He brings it up. I said, "Look, dude, that's the past, man. You got a clean slate." You know, we shook hands over it. I said, "Don't bring that shit up again. It's like it's over with. It's done." You know, but uh, he stole something the other day because he needed to steal it from a store. That's why he has to walk a lot further to get his beer and stuff. And yeah, he's just messed up. There's just like anybody would be. There's stuff about him because uh, I don't care about my foster brother, because I'm never gonna have any interaction with him ever again. And it'll be the same as with my father. When he dies, I will feel nothing. I will feel nothing. Even though I grew up with him, and it's kind of hard to predict how you feel when someone's gonna die. But um, even though I grew up with him catching frogs as little kids, and I used to look forward to him coming over so much. I remember that. Oh boy, my cousin's coming over. We're gonna have some fun now and do some fishing and catch turtles and frogs and be little 8-year-old boys and go on our little adventures and whatnot. Different world back then. You could let little kids run around, especially in the suburbs. You just had you just needed a buddy. As long as you had like two 6-year-olds, the illusion was that it was cool. I don't know how young we were when we were running around and stuff, but no, I'll tell his whole story. I'll tell about his mother being a rapist and and actually having her daughter there during the assault, which turned from a beating into sexual assault. And the daughter uh, claims some things about it that would, at first I thought that, it was all that evil Betty woman's doing just because of how evil she was, but I was contradicted by my aunt's daughter because she was actually there, and it had something to do with over an alleged theft of a motorcycle or a possible real theft of a motorcycle or something. I don't know, but anyways, I don't care about none of them people now because they're all dead to me. Um, she'll be dead in a few years anyway. She's in her 80s. But when she was reaming me out on the phone, she's just another sociopath. Just another narcissistic sociopath. Because she's reaming me out because she can't deal with any stress because she's got a bad heart. Meanwhile, like, I showed my aid worker a video that Mason put up on here that explained the effect that stress has on CRPS, which I was like, now you officially know more about my disease than my family. That's how much they give a damn. I was if I asked, if I asked even what CRPS stood for, and I've had it for 33 years, I bet you 75% of my family would get that part of it wrong, let alone understand the symptoms. And I told my older sister, who I crashed with the paper towels and the jelly, and infused some money in, and who piled all my shit in the corner as a way of telling me to get the fuck out. Um, I told her you're actually making me sick by upsetting me emotionally. Like, that's why I'm awake now. It's 2:39 according to this clock here. I started talking an hour and 15 minutes ago, and that's because emotional upset that I had yesterday, because I have to wrap this thing up with this boat. I figured the best way, he's talking about the war vet guy. He's talking about like sawing it up for like beer cans because it's made out of aluminum. It's like completely impractical and doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, let me talk to my foster brother and see if I can get the title off of him. And he's going on about how he loves his nephew, and he understands him being screwed up in the head and all that, and I just called his bluff on the machine over here. And I guess I wasn't going to read this because I was afraid it was going to make me angry all over again and break things like I did yesterday. But I'll read the conversation to you. If you're in this deep, you know, I actually broke a metal chair with my bare hands. Like I was sitting in the chair after I was done talking to him. And it just snapped off a piece of the metal, like piece of metal off of it and threw it. You should seen the look on the war vet's face when I did that. He was like, "Fuck, I ain't saying nothing." I was just over there like seething. You know. He started laughing and stuff after a while at the YouTube videos, but he wasn't saying nothing to me. And I'm actually doing that and put myself through that for him. But he, just another person that was raised wrong, another sociopath. So it's really kind of pointless, but I don't like to see things go to waste. Like that boat would just go to waste. Because I'm not living here for too much longer. You can drink it up or whatever, or maybe help him pay the rent with it or whatever. It could be possible to get $400 for the boat, and the rent here is in that neighborhood. Or you could just drink it up. I don't know. But I read my conversation that made me actually rip a metal chair and break it with my hand, which I don't know how I did that, but I get angry. I get CRPS man powers. CRPS man, doo-doo-doo. But no, it does something. It does something to me. It's like I pick up things I should not be able to pick up. I break things I should not be able to break. You know. Anyways, here's a stupid fucking conversation I had with him. And this is because I thought they both needed to be at the notary together, and the last time they saw each other, there was blood and broken ribs. All this stupid prick had to do, apparently, was just sign his name on the back of the title. Which, why wouldn't he do that anyway if he's given the boat? If it's my boat and he's parking it outside my place. It took me a long time just to get the title. Maybe he had hopes of selling the boat again, like he sold my dad's boat. I don't know. But this is our conversation. Okay. I say, hello. Can only text, no phone. You said above, you don't want no conflict with blank, and you'll always love him, right? And a little later, while later, he says, yeah, why? And I said, well, I could give my boat. I couldn't give my boat away. I literally couldn't give it away. I tried to give it away to people that they just don't want it. It's a piece of shit. So that doesn't mean some people like a project. But anyways, I said, well, I couldn't give my boat away, so I gave it to Chris to sell, which he cannot do without the title in his name. You said before his head is fucked up from serving this country. He said he'd behave. It's in his best interest to do so. So he says, just don't trust him. He has major issues I don't understand, so best I just avoid him. And then puts a question mark. He just said that he loved him. He would always love him. But now he loves him so much that he wants to avoid him. Because he has issues that he doesn't understand. Let's see if we can follow this. I write, will you sign the title over to him at a notary so he can sell it? He has no money and no job. Yes, he has a pain in the ass, but you said you loved him. This is a way to show it. I lost it. I don't need the money and can't give it away. Tried. Said damage puts it at $400 or best offer, tops. I don't need the money or the hassle. He does. Are you a man of your word? Do you love him? This is a chance to show it. I said, think about it. Get back to me. And then he writes, I'll sign the title. He can figure it out. I hear all kinds of stuff he says I did and didn't do, so not easy to hang out with him at all. You don't have to hang out with him. I said, that's the thing. He acts bad. It's not, if he acts bad, it's not in his interest. Set up a time early if possible. The booze makes him self-destructive. You don't know the whole story. Yes, he can be an asshole. I damn near broke his arm one day to prove a point, but he's just a wounded child in a man's body. Doesn't excuse behavior, just facts. He comes back, my brother-in-law. Just because I love him doesn't mean I'm ready to trust him. How is that questioning my word? No idea what that means. I know he was here punching the road and freaking out. I wasn't there, but he doesn't remember facts, just what he wants. I write back, I am not defending him, just trying to help him. The point is, he acts stupid, he loses money, so he won't act stupid. He needs the money too bad. Pick a time and a notary. He'll show minimal interaction and a chance to ease tension. Everyone wins but me. That sentence wasn't very good, so I apologize. I probably meant to say it will be minimal interaction and a chance to ease tension, and everyone wins but me. But that's texting for you. I said, he's here 24/7. Think about that. Because they complain because he's there for like 5 minutes. I'm done for now. Other things to worry about than helping your nephew with issues. Deep, scarring issues. And he writes back, yeah, I have them too. Some caused by him. I tried to help him in the past. It always backfired on me. So forgive me for my concern. All I need is for him to come back here again, stressing out my mom again. So I write, so that's a no? I can barely walk. I have CRPS and a heart condition. He's here every day. Just say yes or no. And he said, I said I'd sign it, man. He doesn't need me there. Okay, if you flash back, he said he wanted minimal interaction with him, right? Up here. He's not even making any sense because he's probably high off his mind on dope. And he said, just because I love him doesn't mean I trust him. And then he's like, I'll sign the title if he can figure it out. I just don't want to hang out with him. And now down here, he's telling me, I already said I'd sign the title. I don't need to be there. He doesn't need me there. And I said, I didn't know that. And I don't even know what that means. Don't you both have to be in the room with the notary? And he says, Jim wasn't there when I signed it. It is a boat. It should be cool. At this point, I want to kill somebody over this conversation. I said, niece, drop off the title then in about an hour. Or are you saying Chris could do it himself? I'm just confirming he's saying that all he had to do was sign the title in the first place before you even put the title in the boat. Okay, if you can follow this bullshit. It's drug-addled. I gotta get away from people on drugs, man. It's drug-addled nonsense. You know. And he writes, the boat isn't that bad. It will run. Just needs starting fluid in the carb. May need a good cleaning. But that's it, man. Sorry, I don't believe I'll have to sign it. So I say, so, and drop it off. Damn it, now I gotta edit it. Yeah, I guess. And I was like, okay then. And then after that stupid, pointless conversation where, he could have just said he didn't need to be there. Or he could have just signed the title and left it in the boat a month ago. He said, "Oh, I keep forgetting to bring the title over." It's like, I keep forgetting things. It's like, that's because your fucking brain's turning to mush because all you do is smoke weed all the fucking time. You fucking piece of shit. But anyways, so at that point, after this exchange, which was utterly pointless because all he had to tell me was, Chris doesn't need to be there. You know, that's all he had to tell me. It's like I just need to sign it. Instead, we're going through all this nonsense. He's calling my 65-year-old super experienced boating person. He says he doesn't believe him, because he doesn't want to admit that he just totally trashed my boat. You know, all it needs is a good cleaning. Like my buddy was there. He had the whole thing apart, and he had all his tools with him working on it. And he was like, he just wanted to do it. He was like, uh, yeah, this thing's a loss. He said, like, the gasoline's turned to varnish. It's been in it so long, and it's gonna need service. So, anyways, the last thing I wrote him, it says, was at 128. So I went out and I seethed and sat in that chair and broke off a piece of metal and threw it in the yard. And uh, I just let them hang. And when my niece came, she didn't have time. I was like, "Can I change my favor to it's right down the road." I said, all you gotta do is like hand this title in and have this jackass sign it and then run it back here. But she's like, "No, I got like groceries. It's real hot." And I was like, "I got groceries in the car." And um, her one of her best friends, uh, mom just died at the age of 55. So, I was like, "That's okay, hon. That's okay." And so I just left. After that, I just left him hang. And like at 4 o'clock, he said, "Well, been waiting. I'm going fishing now." So yeah, talking about a boat. And he's like, "I've been waiting. I'm going fishing now." So yeah, won't miss him. But yeah, that whole thing was pointless. I mean, all he had to say is that one text where he just said he doesn't have to be there. Because that was the whole thing I was thinking. I was like, thinking like, well, the notary has to see you sign it and then notarize it. He could still be wrong about that. I mean, I don't know how that works. I mean, I'm not even that interested in it anymore about looking it up, because the person I'm doing the favor for, he you know, he ain't right. He ain't matter of gratitude, man. He's just, yeah, he's just a taker. He's from the same vein as these other people. I just feel bad for him and want to help him out. I don't want the boat. He went through some bad shit in Afghanistan. He went through some bad shit here at home, and I don't want the boat here anymore. I'm leaving. I don't want Gerald to have it, because if I leave it, Gerald might sell it or scrap it. Because then it's his. So if I leave it on his property. So yeah, oh my God, I was so close to losing it. I was like, I'd come out there, and I sat and I was like, "Give me that cigarette. I earned this." I was like, "I want to break that fucking table in half right now." I just sat there and I tried to keep control of myself, and I couldn't quite do it. I had a handle on like one of those folding chair things, and I just broke the metal handle off and threw it in the yard. This motherfucker, though, man. I said I'd sign it, man. He doesn't need me there. And then earlier on, he's saying, I just don't want to have any interaction with him. And right away, I'm asking him, will you sign the title over to him at a notary? You know, and he could tell me that right there. That's like the first thing, one of the first things I said to him. And he's like, oh, he has major issues, so it's best just to avoid him. Well, like, yeah, okay, he lives here. I, I, I'm done. Just done. You're dead. Dead. Your mom, dead. Your sister, dead. The other guy that lives there, dead. You ask you. I'm gonna tell him one way or another. Probably not face to face because that would not be wise. But it's like the last words I said to my father after not talking to him. I said in my father's direction after not talking to him for 13 years because he wouldn't look me in the eye. Uh, Dead number one, his mom, and dead number two, his sister, were there. I said, you ask him about that. You ask him about that, and you ask him if I'm serious. You know, if he doesn't know it. I, I might add, if you come anywhere near me, I mean, don't even drive down my street. If you come anywhere near me, I'm going to have an edged weapon. So I'm going to get my knife uh, back off of my brother and tell him I need it because there's like, I guess there are people using some pretty bad substances upstairs. But that might have got a little sloppy at the end there, but that's the basic gist of it. So that's why I'm awake here, chattering in your ear, is because I got angry, and CRPS and strong emotion don't work well together. They don't play nice together. Usually means I didn't eat much yesterday either. I started to get an appetite when I was texting my one guy in Florida that was option number two, where my foster brother could have went and starved with him, or came and ate and been taken care of by a loving mother. His second mother. Uh, but betrayals of that magnitude, man, I don't have no problems with it. And we're not really friends. I mean, we never were after a certain point. We were friends when we were children. And I guess I had that in my mind, that we could rekindle some of that. He likes to fish. I like to fish. We could have a boat. We could go out and have fun on the boat together or whatever. And it just wasn't to be. He was already too far gone. I mean, the person that I liked has been dead for years. I moved in here like 9 going on 10 years. He was already dead. You know, my brother has a theory that he just didn't stay. He wasn't around my mom and didn't stay around good, honorable people like long enough for it to have any effect. And your personality is formed when you're younger anyway. So when he was younger, it was all about him and it was all about survival. You know, so, but I don't care. Done with him. How can somebody ruin your property like that and not offer you any recompense and then like just be in a state of denial? I never asked him for a dime over it, but he's already must already be thinking that way. If a guy with the amount of experience as my cop friend, a guy with that much experience, and he's like he's wrong. The guy owned two of the exact same kind of motors. You know, how many boats have you owned? None. How many motors have you owned? None. He just had mine in his garage for a while. Took it out a few times, maybe half a dozen times. My brother only in it once. He'll pay. He'll pay. Not by me, not by violence. Life has a way of repaying these things. You know, I don't know what my next communication with him would be, but he's looking at his future. He's living with his future. His mom, with all the heart attacks and strokes, he's already got COPD, smokes like a chimney, runs from his issues. Not a heavy drinker, but did quite a bit of drinking in his time. I wouldn't call him like an everyday souse type of drunk. That's the only thing, you know. That's why he can think that he's better than the Warbeck guy is, because that guy's like everyday type of guy. But this guy, he smokes so much weed, he don't make sense half the time. The stuff they got nowadays, it's crazy. And I mean, who the fuck gives back a boat that they ruined to somebody that they never went fishing with when they made promises to take out their brother fishing? Never been on the boat with him, and while he's giving me the boat, the title back to the boat that he ruined and screwed me out of $900 for, he's bragging about a fishing trip. What kind of fucked up person would do that? You know, bragging about a fishing trip. I'm not on. Mm. But he'll pay. He'll suffer physically like my dad suffered physically, like his mom suffered physically right now, and really has been for many, many years. My dad had strokes and heart attacks. He'll have the same. You know, that Ed Covington guy, he might have been on to something about repressed emotion, making you sick. Because he should have really studied me really closely, but they didn't understand CRPS back then because of the profound effect negative emotion had on me, or has on me, to the point where I'm like, I can't sleep and I can't eat when I get angry, or when I get sad, or when somebody hurts me emotionally. You actually hurt me physically. You know, um, in a concrete kind of way. Like somebody can hurt you, like say something bad to you, and you're like, oh, I feel like I just got punched in the stomach. And you feel that hurt. With me, it's actual pain. I mean, it's like pain. You know what I mean? It's actual physical symptoms. My family don't understand it, don't care to understand it. They care about themselves. Um, that was a pretty good heart punch. Um, so yeah, I don't know if there's the proper coherency to that, but um, I just want to beat him to death, frankly. I mean, if I had a healthy set of legs, I would just go over there and beat the shit out of him. I would, and I'm pretty sure I could take him if I had a healthy set of legs. I always could. He never even came close to beating me in a fight ever when we were younger, and he was always afraid of me. You get that psychological Mike Tyson type advantage, but there won't be none of that on these legs. I don't know how I broke that piece of metal yesterday, but I just broke it out. It was like a handle on a chair, and I just broke it. I mean, I was just seething with rage. I would just sucker punch him anyway. I would just hit him with that right hand, and he'd be dizzy, and I'd jump on him. And his cardio ain't very good anyway, so that's what I would do if I had a good set of legs. I don't understand it. It's like You know how hard that is to throw away a 45-year relationship. You know, that's why I just waited for him to improve as a human being, and he just got worse. And that sounds sanctimonious, perhaps, or whatever. I don't care how it sounds. Um, he just actually became a worse human being. You know, I mean, I'm crippled up, but I can ride this electric bike, right? He's watching me suffer, and because I need like $100 for this wheel. He's got $100, but do you think I'm getting $100 out of him? You know how much money that dude's ever loaned me in his life? You know how much money that dude's taken off of me in his life? Somewhere in the four figures. I don't know how many thousands. I don't know. I hope this was coherent. I have to go edit it now to take some names off of it. But for once, you get the full story. Or as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. Because those people are dead to me anyway. I don't care. You, you cross certain lines, and I won't feel nothing when any of them die. I felt like I got kicked in the stomach by a mule when my mom died, but when my father died, a little twinge. That's about it. It's your father, man. It's a piece of you, whether you want it to be or not. It's a piece of my father that made me break that chair yesterday. You know, I felt a twinge. That's about it. I had empathy for him, you know, until I found out some of the other stuff that he did. I had empathy for him. It's like, because he was the best that he could be under the circumstances for many, many years. You know, for many years, I think he was the best that he could be. You know, if you're raised by wolves, you can't expect to act like a lamb. He expected to act like a lamb. That sounds kind of biblical, since I started out with the fathers eat the sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge, which I believe is the book of Ezekiel. Um, so I'll end it here at an hour and 43 minutes. It's just sad. I did the grieving in the last video though. It's just sad. I just want to be around people that are sober and sensible and rational. That's all. Whatever that takes. And if that takes solitude, you know, it's like even the people that I like in my family, or they've done so much that it's damaged them up here. Like I got a brother-in-law that's a certified genius that's taken every freaking drug imaginable, and I never got to the core of why. But everything, I can't think of anything that he hasn't. He had, I don't think heroin. I think was the only thing that he missed on the drug checklist. You know, bath salts, uh, cocaine, bad alcoholic. He couldn't quit drinking like any way other than the die or live way. He said he went out of his head and saw angels and demons, and the angels won, and they let him live because, of course, as we know, and as I've said many times, the only two cold turkey withdrawals that can kill an otherwise healthy person: alcohol, benzodiazepines. So, um, that's the story. I'm sure. sure I left some things out. And see what that does to your memories of things, though, you know? The memory of the fun that we had as kids, chasing around turtles and frogs and hanging out together and laughing and joking and growing up together. And I remember being on a school bus and accidentally getting a girlfriend just because he was awkward around girls. And I'm like, look, dude, it's pretty freaking simple. You talk to them and you show an interest, and they either don't like you or they like you. I was like, watch this. And I walked up, and this girl's name was Tatea Selway. And she was hot. I mean, she was good looking. And she was sitting by herself. And I said, do you mind if I sit here? And started up a conversation with me. Or I started up a conversation with her. And then she would sit with me like every day. Like, I got me a boyfriend now. You know, because we're at that like 13-year-old age or whatever it is. People start earlier now with the whole sex thing, I guess, but we're at that age. We're trying to figure stuff out. You know, I just kind of like just she figured out that she wasn't really my girlfriend. She lived right down the road, and plus, I grew up in a twisted freaking household, so I just did it to prove a point. It was kind of cruel, and yeah, she lived like right down the road. Her name was Taya Selway. I remember that. Cool name, good looking girl, and yeah, all those memories. It's just it's just tainted. It's like this one cat I had that was like a super cool cat. Um, he used to like lay on the pillow beside my head and sleep. And I'd rest my head on it. It was just some wild cat. This is I'm talking like when I lived in Canton, like freaking 25 years ago, and I didn't take care of it properly, and it died a horrible death, more or less, in my arms. And now it I can't remember the good times with the cat. I actually threw away a picture of it sitting on a pillow. I had another picture of it where it was in the window, and there's a perfect shot of him sitting in the window. But right when I snapped it, he moved, and I threw that picture away too. And it's like, it just ruins that whole childhood thing. The way that my father's behavior just tainted my whole, just like ruins the whole childhood. I think it's the way that things end that are important. I think that's maybe why people do substances, is so they can build up those illusions, and keep those childhood memories that are, I don't know. I know that the guy that, my foster brother, he thinks he had a good childhood. He thinks he had a good childhood. He's actually said that. He grew up being starved, beaten, left with crazy people. His mom goes to jail for 7 years. He's in a foster family with me beating his ass, initiating him into the family. And yeah, he said he had a good childhood. It's like, okay, man, whatever. It's got to end somewhere. So I guess I'll end it here. I don't even know what this thing is going to be like. But I know I got to move Avi, and I got to edit my niece's name out of it. Or, she's, because of the situation with her mom, our time together is going to be limited anyway. Because if you're playing cards, the mom is the choker. I mean, it trumps everything. You know, you can't beat someone's mom if they love their mom. They're gonna pick their mom over you, over whether right and wrong has nothing to do with it. So I'm going on 2 years not speaking to her mom. So that relationship's doomed. I've accepted that. We're still nice to each other. I told her I don't want no family. I don't want to be at no family gatherings. I don't want no part of it no more. You could deal with uh, us as individuals, but we keep in touch and stuff, but that'll end. And it is what it is. Uh, yeah, I picture myself either somehow magically making sober friends when I move, or being very alone and pursuing my hobbies of reading, writing, not arithmetic. Oh God, not arithmetic. Um, but just appreciating the peace that I acquired when I was 20 years old, that I spoke about in the video called the X Experience, and understanding that, that's what I'm trying to get across. My voice is leaving me. A minute, please. That's that smoking, man. That vet guy got me hooked. Like I said, he's be drinking, throwing cigarettes literally at me through the window. He's like, oh, there's a cigarette that fell in your printer, so I don't think you want to run your printer. And I was like, yeah, but what if it kicks out 50 more cigarettes? If I put the copier on. Anyways, I know that the bad things happen. Like sober, he's very sullen and quiet. He doesn't like to talk. He likes to look at his phone and watch YouTube videos. And talking to a drunk person is pretty much pointless. But I did try to tell him the two things, the two things that I live by that give me peace of mind. And it's like the two things that you're responsible for in this world are the things the only things you should feel any kind of shame over, rather, are the things that you do that hurt other people, the things that you don't do where you have opportunities to help other people. The stuff that happens to you, especially when you're small or powerless, or things that happen to you from the outside that you should not feel ashamed about. Stuff like that. I'm not ashamed that my sister ripped my guts out and stomped all over him. 12, 27, 17. And, I'm not ashamed of that. You know, he asked me, I'll tell you what, man, what we got here to make it a 2 hour video. He asked me, he's like, oh, he's all drunk, and he's like, yeah, I made out with my girlfriend last night. It's a wonderful feeling. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, because I tried to explain to him what allodynia was, and that's why I about broke his arm. Uh, that feeling of it, intensified pain and hypersensitivity and stuff. You know, but I was like, no, I don't know what it's like to how good that makes you feel, or what that's like. And I've never even kissed a girl. I didn't say that part of it. I just said no, don't know what that's like. And he's like, faggot. Meanwhile, he takes offense at the stupidest things. I'm like, whatever, man. I told him, man, I tried to explain to him, it's like, you can't upset me. I grew up in a house with my dad. You know who my dad was. It's like getting upset over things. Not a good plan. You're not gonna, like, you know. The closest he came to upsetting me, uh, I wasn't upset with him when I was about breaking his arm. I just want to make a point. I didn't even lose my temper. A little bit of the evil come out, but I didn't lose my temper. I lost my temper today when I broke that piece of metal off of that chair. But the closest I came to him annoying me, upset me, or hurt my feelings, or whatever, is I was just trying to tell that dog story about my dad killing a dog that was going for his throat to kill him. You imagine the balls that that takes. You know, a 70-pound dog is not a small dog. The balls that that takes to stand there and throw that right hand and kill that dog. And he killed that dog just with one punch, you know? And he was like, I don't want to hear about your dad. He's, you know, he was drunk and stupid or whatever. I was like, you know, that kind of, that's the closest he came to irritating me. But, anyways, I guess it's time to go. Uh, I think you know the whole story now between the two videos. Maybe too much of the story for some of you. The object involved in a sexual assault. I have an idea of what it was, but I don't want to say. But I will. I believe it was a board. So he is super loyal to a woman that raped a guy with a board and left my mom and my brother high and dry. When my mother saved him from malnutrition and wearing rags. And that pretty much sums up the whole damn thing. It's about 2 hours. I think that's enough, don't you? If you actually hung through this that long. This is going to be fun to edit. But for once, like I said, that's the whole story. 45 years, man. Down the drain. Really my own self-delusion. I should have understood what he was when I lived with him in the early 20s above the Wig Style Center. When he had no problem spending my money and let me pay for everything. And then calling me gullible on top of it. I should have known. But him being a sociopath, he has plenty of people to hang out with, and he has plenty of friends. But I have him. I have maybe 2, 3 other people. So to me, it's a big loss. To him, it won't be much. No matter how he carries on about it. Like, if he comes around here, he's a goddamn fool. Because I'll have a hatchet in my hand. And I wish I was kidding. But hopefully, the Abraham Lincoln's better angels will prevail. Goodbye.